right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, isn't he?
What are we talking about? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
What's up? Oh, that's not the view we usually have. Neither is that. What am I doing? There we go. I mean, before we went live, it was not on this view, so it changed up on me, but it's all good. It is Tuesday night, back with another episode of the Big Three. As you can see, we have all three of us here. Brett is, he's honorary part of the show now. He's here every week, so he's a regular. We've missed Jake for the past couple of weeks. So we'll start with you, Jake. How are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be back on the show. Missed, 2 weeks ago for the holidays, and last week I was sick. Still kind of feeling it a little bit, but just happy to be here. Happy to talk about the upcoming playoffs. Flip side, a bit bummed that, regular season is over and we have less football, but hey, let's at least have some good playoff games to kind of close out the season.
Yeah, definitely agree. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Packers made the playoffs after starting out 2-5. Can't ask for much more than that out of this team. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
I mean, I guess it's good to have a team to watch in the playoffs. I think it's a little overrated. I'm ready for the draft anyway. But like Jake said, we have a lot that we'll talk about. I see Jory's in here. What's going on? I mean, Steven apparently was in here even before the show started. That's dedication right there. But we're going to talk about some stories in the NBA because there's some interesting storylines with a couple of star players that are apparently unhappy with their situation. We have a certain player who was just reinstated that, I don't know, something seems a little weird in the air. And we actually had an injury, which, wasn't even on our list of things to talk about, but we can probably start with that. We'll start there. The John Morant stuff. He was suspended 25 games and comes back. Looks like he might pull off some impressive run with the Grizzlies, get them back into contention. And then the news hit yesterday. Torn labrum, surgery, out for the year. I mean, how crazy is that? How bad must it be to be a Grizzlies fan right now? Finally pass on the chair and it's taken away from you. So I guess the easiest question would be, we have to assume the season's over, right? For the Grizzlies. I mean,
it's over. It's over. It was almost over from the get-go with how poorly they started. But once Jock came back, they started winning some games. It started to get some life. And you're like, hey, that play-in, there's a lot of teams that are in that 10, the 8, 9, 10 range that are flirting around 500. Grizzlies could sneak in there. They're exciting to watch again. Jaw's looking really good. And then, like you said, I woke up this morning, looked at my phone, and it's like, oh, he's done for the year. And I'm like, when did he get hurt? I didn't know that was even a possibility. But they're done. They need to pack it in, get ready for the offseason, and try and find a direction to go into next season. But it's a real gut punch because this time last year, things were looking really good for Memphis. And in the past, 365 days, it's just been a nightmare. I mean, just the one of the worst possible ways you could imagine this franchise going a year ago to where they're at now.
Yeah, Brett, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, they're done. They went from maybe making the playoffs to definitely getting knocked in the first round. They might as well just start researching the best rebounders coming out of this draft because this team is toast, and they just need to look forward to addressing the holes for hopefully a deep playoff run next year.
I mean, look, we saw last year that they played well without him. I mean, we saw that they struggled early on this season. So I guess there's no hope for them maybe rallying around this and maybe continuing what Josh started. I mean, I agree that they're probably done. But who knows? The way that the bottom of the West is going, you never know. Because we have surprise teams that are down there. We don't know if any of them will be able to figure it out. Maybe the Grizzlies can sneak in as like a 10 seed into the play-in. I doubt it, but like I said, stranger things have happened. What's going on? Daniel, Steven is in here. Jory, like I mentioned before. What's going on, everybody? So now to the first story that we actually had on our topics. Draymond Green. I mean, it's fitting this picture as well. It looks like a man that's going through some stuff. So, he's had his outburst on the court, had his indefinite suspension. He was reinstated, didn't play against Toronto. But then we got like a little nugget into all this where Draymond actually contemplating retirement because of all this. So the first question's got to be, you believe Draymond was really going to retire over this?
I think you muted, Brett.
Yeah.
Who am I to tell him that no, you didn't contemplate retiring? Like, it doesn't feel like a Draymond move, but I'm not really the person to tell Draymond Green that he's lying, I guess. So I'm gonna say I wouldn't expect that of him, but I'm not gonna doubt him.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake? I mean, again, it's hard to be like, oh, I don't want to call someone a liar, but maybe he's just exaggerating on how deep he put into this thought. I think there's, 100 million different reasons why he didn't retire. Like, there's a lot of money on that contract that he can do. Mm-hmm. And you get it. He's made his money. He's set for life, generational wealth, but you still it's hard to turn away that kind of money. And I think he's going through some stuff, and it probably did briefly enter his mind, but did it enter his mind into the point where he would actually go and retire and have to be talked out of it by Adam Silver? That I find a little bit more hard to believe, a little more just bit of a stretch. I'll just put it that way. He's still talented. He still has a ton of value in the league. Despite all of his antics, he's still well respected by a lot of people, and he has a good game to give. I don't see him, if he would have retired, I wouldn't. It'd be one of those things where I'd expect him to come back in like March or April and just be like, I had to finish going through my stuff, and now I'm back for the playoff run for the Warriors.
Okay. I mean, I could see, I think we talked about this on Cheap Seats, but just to bring it to the Big Three audience, there could have been a moment where it first happened, he meets with Silver and is like, if I can't be on the edge, I'm not Draymond, so I guess I'm out. And maybe Silver was like, let's calm down here. Doesn't mean you can't play with an edge. You just can't go over the edge and start and keep endangering players. Like, if he gets into a little bit of a shoving match with a player, we can live with that. But we can't have you spinning, clocking dudes to the side of their head, knocking them down. We can't have you running up and choking people. That stuff is what we need to get you to stay away from. You can still talk trash, you can still get heated and everything like that, but control it. So maybe once Silver played that out, he was like, okay, I guess I'll give it a try. Because also, as I said, Cheap Seats, it's like, would you want to see a Draymond Green that didn't play on the edge? Because he's not exactly the most athletic or talented guy. So if you take that away, what is he?
Draymond Green without the edge just is not Draymond Green. Like, he needs that edge. He needs that competitive fire. like you said, he can still play aggressive. He can still get physical. And if he shoves a couple people, we don't care about that. Just don't spinning back fist Nurkic in the middle of a game. That's all we're asking. Or don't decide to choke out Rudy Gobert. Like I want to see Draymond play with an edge because that makes Draymond. I don't need docile Draymond. That sounds terrible, honestly.
No, yeah, it does. It sounds boring. I've been trying to think of a NBA comp of what he would be without the edge, and I can't think of any. His skill set comes on defense with the trash talk, with the intensity. He, like you said, he's not the most athletic guy. He's also not the biggest guy, so he needs that mental edge, that attitude edge to really be effective. And then on the offensive side, he's their facilitator. He's their point guard, and him and Steph just know how to work together without even having any verbal, nonverbal cues. They can almost just read each other's minds, and that's really good basketball to watch. So as much as a pain as he is at times, I don't want to see him retire. I don't want to see him just end it early, and then the Warriors are just kind of toast because Steph doesn't have his playmaker next to him.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs that edge. And the thing that just blows my mind with this is it's not like the edge that he's on is this razor thin edge. It's not this razor thin edge. There's a mile wide between attitude and fighting. Like there's a whole bunch of steps in between having an attitude and having an edge, and then just straight up fighting somebody. And he's acting like that edge is razor thin, which it's not.
Right. As John said, you have Pat Bev, who likes to toe the line. Rodman toed the line a lot. Marcus Smart is a guy who rubs the opposition the wrong way. But we don't see those guys doing some of the stuff that Draymond's done. So I think it's going to be interesting, his first game on the court, how he acts. Like, does he consciously not argue with refs to try to prove a point? And if he does do that and the team loses, maybe he might have to go back to it a little bit. So Chris, what's going on? And John, appreciate you tuning in. Maybe Dre just doesn't trust himself. And I think I heard Chris bring this up on the morning show, which I thought was a good point as well. If Draymond looked at this and was like, so now I'm apparently the poster boy of what's wrong with the NBA. So the next time I do something even close to anything I've done, will I just get suspended again? And if that's what he thought, then he might have thought, I'll just remove myself from the equation. I'll do my podcast where I can kind of say what I want, do what I want, and I'll be fine. And then, like we heard, that's when I guess Adam Silver brought him back. But Steven did ask a question. Oh, he brought up a thought here. The Warriors ought to trade Green to see if they can get anything in return. He said Green's not retiring. He's saying around the trade deadline. Do you think the Warriors are looking to move Draymond Green? Or should they? Well, we could ask, should they look to move him?
Right now? No. What value are you getting back right now for Draymond Green?
Well, Steven said trade deadline.
Career worst but will his value get pumped up? The issue is he's playing career worst basketball coming off multiple suspensions. It's the issue isn't necessarily if they find a great deal for him, consider it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that deal's coming because unless he has some massive resurgence, that's still going to be in the mind. All right, we're trading for this guy. Until he proves otherwise, he can't control his emotions on the court. Who knows if he's going to get suspended? He just said it himself. He thought about retiring. So there's so many question marks with him that you can look, but I don't think you're finding anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you can trade him. His value to the Warriors is way higher than any value he's going to be to any other team. What he means, he was drafted into the perfect situation with the perfect teammates, perfect coach, all of that. But he also maximized his potential. I'm not trying to dog him, but Draymond in Utah or Denver or Minnesota or Oklahoma City just isn't the same as what he is in Golden State. And so you're going to be getting 20 cents on the dollar for this trade. And how he keeps the offense going despite his poor numbers
Mhm.
is more valuable than anything you'd get in return. On top of just trying to make the contracts work, this big contract, $100 million, would be tough to match, and you're just not going to get whatever you bring back in. It's not going to equate to more wins for Golden State. So I don't think there is an opportunity for them to trade, and I don't think they should.
So, I mean, nobody's going to entertain maybe him going to Detroit, going back home, nothing like that. You know, Detroit's crazy. Detroit might trade Kate Cunningham for him. You don't know.
Yeah, they see another non-shooter on that team. That's, I mean, I can't imagine Draymond being on a team that's losing always, in a losing culture. Like, no offense to Detroit, but like a losing culture,
Mhm.
big losing streaks, no hope, no light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see him just being able to stay locked in. And I think he would actually have more violent outbursts because he would just be so angry that this team is just so bad. Like, it could be, yeah, if it happened, it'd be great. It'd make Detroit a little more watchable for the drama, but it would be a dumb move on both teams' parts.
And plus, have we ever seen Draymond when he plays in like non-pressure games? Like, he's actually not great if there isn't anything on the line. Forgot who was on the podcast once, but it was on JJ Redick's podcast, I believe, and they even said, yeah, Draymond Green's one of the worst players if there's nothing at stake. So him going to like Detroit, where nothing's going to be at stake for like the next decade, yeah, that would be terrible because we'd see the worst version of Draymond Green and wouldn't do anything for Detroit.
Hey, man, Draymond's not going to waste that gas if there's nowhere to go. He's got to have something to play for. Okay, so now that Draymond's back, knowing how this Warriors team is, let's say nothing drastic happens at the trade deadline. What's their ceiling? Do they make the play-in?
They're at
a top 6. Like, what are they?
I feel bad saying this, but like their ceiling is probably right now, with how things are looking, is like a first round exit. Like, I can't see this team. It pains me to say this because I feel like I'm disrespecting Steph and how we saw him 2 years ago go on this crazy run that really spurred the team and win a championship. But with everything that I've been seeing, it just hasn't been great. Maybe they get a play. The absolute ceiling is one playoff win, and that's giving way too much. I don't want to say respect, but that's going way far and above. It really is. This is a first round exit team that their best hope is to try and get that 6th seed, because they may not be able to even win a playing tournament with what I've seen. Because right now, I think they're like the 12th seed. Yeah, they're the 12th seed right now. Like, they're not looking very good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this team gets bounced in the play-in as their peak. This is not a great basketball team right now. It's currently like, we can say it's the same championship team, but it's clear it's not. Andrew Wiggins is not Andrew Wiggins right now. Something's mentally off with him, it seems. Kuminga is just fighting everybody about playing time, and so is Moses Moody's apparently unhappy. It seems like nobody's happy, and all of their vets who did help them win that last title are just shells of themselves. Clay looks worse than he did in 2022. Wiggins does. Draymond can't stay on the court, so I don't see this team going farther than the play-in.
No, it's Wiggins has to be really grateful that all this drama around Draymond's going on, because his fallout to where he was 2 years, like, he was the second best player on that Warriors team that won the championship, and to where he's at now, it's shocking how much he's fallen off in just a short period of time. And it's not like he's an old guy. I don't even think he's 30 years old yet. Like, he should still be an effective, good player, but he's just not there for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like Brad alluded to, and you as well, Jake. It seems like something's off mentally with Wiggins, or I don't know. Maybe there's something going on personally that's starting to affect him even more in the court, but he just does not look like the same guy at all. And yeah, if the Warriors can't figure this out, if they can't make some adjustments at the trade deadline, it is going to be a tough season. A season that Warriors fans haven't really experienced in a while. So, Steve Kerr and whoever in the front office, they better get on the phone and start looking for something. Bring some size in, bring in, I don't know. Whatever anybody's offering, take it seriously. All right, let's go to the next topic here. So Giannis. This one probably hits home with you, Brett. Your boy Giannis is. I mean, he blamed everybody down to the equipment manager, not washing their jerseys right. He went top down in the organization. He's mad about their lack of defense. He's unhappy with the performance of the team. I guess we'll start with you, Brett, because I know you've watched Milwaukee, very intently. What is wrong with the Bucks right now?
Well, let's see where to start. All of our issues really come on the defensive end, right? Because the reason for the Drew Holiday Dame Lillard trade was to fix the half-court offense, because that was terrible in the playoffs, and that's kind of what got us knocked out last year against Miami. And we did that. We're actually one of the best half-court team in the league, or right up there. The issue comes on the defensive side of the ball. Nobody seems to be taking pride in playing defense. We can say that Giannis and Brook are having down years, but in all reality, the issue starts at the point of attack. It's Malik Beasley. He just lets people go by him in a straight line, forces rotation, easy three, or pull-up jumper. And the same happens with Dame Lillard. This team just has no good point of attack defenders. It's just breaking the whole defense. And then, of course, I think part of the issue, too, has been coaching. It's on part coaching, part players, because at the end of the day, too, we see it. Credit to Coach Griffin. He's really trying all these new schemes and tactics. But there's no way Malik Beasley and Dame Lillard should be pressing ball handlers 30 feet away from the basket. That's just asking to get the defense broken down. So I think the biggest issue with this team is they just got to take more pride in defending. They got to really own up their individual assignments, so we're not watching this defense just be in rotation and giving up easy shots all the time, which it's possible, and we still got the trade deadline, so we'll see what happens. But this team's issue, it's all defensive.
I mean, Jake, I don't know how much of the Bucks you've seen.
But... I mean, I watched part of it when the Jazz won. I'm sporting my Utah hoodie here because that was surprising. I wasn't expecting that win. Look, I love Giannis. As far as my Jazz players, he's definitely one of my favorite players to watch. I have a ton of respect for him. What he did, when they won that championship was just top tier superstar legend stuff. And I think he wants to get back to that level. He wants to get back to that mountain and chase greatness because he knows what he is capable of. And this team just isn't trying. And granted, it's January. It can be really hard for some dudes to kind of get up for a game in January. But Giannis is wired differently. And I get it. I'd be mad. It's the same for any of us that have played basketball, in what's grade school, middle school, high school. What do they say about defense? Defense is an effort thing. That's the first point of it. It's, I'm not very tall, very athletic, I can't jump high. I'm not very strong, but I was a pretty good defender because I would try. I would bust my ass on it. And I feel like that's his issue, is that it's just no one cares. And you have to at least try. Like, if everyone's trying and doing their hardest and you're losing, fine. Like, I think he would be able to live with that. But when he can see the lack of effort, the lack of attack, the lack of focus, lack of good coaching, I buy it. Like, I'd be pissed too. I'd be really upset. This team should be better. I get that they don't have good defenders on the team, but they should still try. You still have to put an effort when you're wanting to be a top team in the NBA. They know they're not going to get the 1 seed, so you're trying to get that 2 seed secured so you have home court in the second round. Philly's just like a game or two behind, so you can't take these games super lightly. So I get it, man. I'd be pissed too.
Yeah, look, I will never say anything bad about Giannis. Giannis is a guy that I feel like is a breath of fresh air in the league because he's a superstar player that doesn't try to play, friends with everybody. When he's rocking that Milwaukee jersey, he cares about anybody else who's winning it. So I think the way that he went about this and calling out everybody will have some type of effect. The only issue is the people that he's talking to. Look, Lillard is not going to turn into a defender overnight. He probably never will be because he's never been.
He's never going to turn into a defender. As much as I love Damian, he's not going to do it.
That's a battle you're never going to win. Middleton used to be one of the top two-way players, he's lacking right now. He doesn't have the same, lateral quickness or everything that he had before the injuries. Look, Brook Lopez, give him a lot of credit. He transformed his game from when he was in Brooklyn to what he is now. But you can't rely on him to fix all the mistakes, kind of like Brett said. We have Bobby Portis, who, he might be crazy eyes. That's what I kind of refer to him as. He looked like he's already ready to he's ready to scrap with somebody. But you can't rely on him to fix defensive mistakes. So I don't know what they're going to have to probably try to make a trade, get a wing defender to try to help out with the perimeter defense. But until then, they're probably going to be stuck with a lot of games where they give up way too many points, and it puts a lot more pressure on them offensively to keep up. In terms of the coaching, I mean, Adrian Griffin's his first year as head coach. There's going to be some bumpy times, and this is from somebody who's a Celtics fan who saw it with Joe Mazzulla. You just have to ride it out. They're going to be a top 4 seed. Once you get to the playoffs, it could be a little bit different. Maybe they're able to hide the defensive issues a little bit better because the game slows down a little bit more. But I could agree with Giannis. There's reasons to be upset in Milwaukee. Definitely.
And what makes it more frustrating is with the Bucks, I've seen them put together like really solid and really good 5-6 minutes of stretches where they'll actually play good defense, and you'll see Dame competing and really trying. Last time I checked, it's probably slipped by now, but for a while they had a top 10 defense in clutch time. So it's probably also frustrating to him that, why can't we do this more often? Why is it only saved for this 5-minute stretch? So I get it, because we've shown that we can play at least competent team defense, but a lot of the times the effort's just not there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's very easy to wait until the team bottoms out to call them out. There still are 2 or 3 in the East. He decided to do it now. Now it's on the rest of the players to hear the message and try to fix it, or the front office bring somebody in. I mean, John's in here talking about Lopez for Bam. Good luck with that one. Good luck.
I don't think Miami's
not having
that,
Pat Riley
hey.
hang up in your face, but you can throw it out there, see what he says. But yeah, we'll see what the Bucks do. All right, one last NBA story. Okay, you got to talk about LeBron and the Lakers now. I see Jordan in here. What's going on, Jordan? I know this is your squad, so the next few minutes might be a little touchy for you. But LeBron and Josh said, "Oh God, not LeBron." Yeah. So there was the game against Miami. No Jimmy Butler. The Lakers lose. LeBron did a little bit of a little talk time at his locker. Basically gave off the impression that he's not happy with the effort of the team around him. The Lakers are in the play-in position right now. And remember, a lot of people said they won the offseason. This was not the way it was supposed to go. So we'll start with Jake, and we'll talk about this for a little bit. What are the issues with the Lakers that need to be fixed? What's the biggest problem in LA?
Man, dude, I don't even know it's hard to quantify what their issue is. They're not a great team. They don't have the necessary things. They have good players. LeBron's still playing at a really great level. We saw that great dunk that he had. Anthony Davis can still be effective. They have players. I just think they don't have the roster that fits together as good as what you need in today's NBA. I don't think they're particularly coached quite as hard as they need to be. And look, I'm a big LeBron James fan. I know there are sometimes where it gets a little harder and harder to defend him with some of his antics and everything, especially with that 3-point hole thing he had a little while ago. But man, it's tough to say what's wrong with them because they were playing really well with the play-in tournament. They had something to play for. They were looking really sharp. It could be something where they're coasting. They're like, hey, it's January. We have plenty of time to make it up. All we have to do is get a 6th seed. We don't really worry about wanting to get the 4th or 5th seed. So they're taking games off. They're not taking things seriously. I don't think that's LeBron's mentality, but it could be a lot of other players in that locker room that aren't taking things as seriously. And it seems to be kind of a recurring issue. A lot of years, the Lakers have these really good rosters and they just never fit. They never really go well together. Everyone made a big deal when Russell Westbrook went, signed with the team. And I didn't like the move. I didn't think they would fit very well. And I think it's just fit. It just doesn't fit in today's NBA like it should.
Okay, Brett?
I think a big issue with this team, and not a lot of people have mentioned it, is the absence of Gabe Vincent. And I think Gabe Vincent would have helped this team a ton. He was one of their big offseason signings. He's a knockdown shooter from three. He can give them solid defense, and I think more importantly, bumps D'Angelo Russell to the bench in favor of somebody who can play defense in the backcourt with Austin Reeves. Now, and the thing is, he was a consistently good shooter. So I think they're missing their best piece to really unlock their best lineup. But I'd say Rui injury too, that really hurts. But I think it's just really more so these role players underperforming. LeBron James is arguably still the best player on their team at 39. Anthony Davis is playing at a high level. So I think the big issue right now is just who do you surround them with? You can't surround them with Cam Reddish. He's just terrible. Christian Wood's not going to play defense for you. Jared Vanderbilt will give you defense, but absolutely no lick of offense. D'Angelo Russell's good if you let him be a decision maker in the pick and roll, but that unless it's that specific situation, that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
They have these guys who just specialize in one thing or the other, not named Austin Reeves. So I think the issue is the key guys they need are hurt, and they just don't really have a lineup construction that really works well for them right now.
I mean, you guys all hit on good points. The Lakers struggling. I'm in no hurry to see it get fixed as a Celtics fan. Keep struggling. Fine with me. But look, I've been known as a LeBron hater. It's fine. I can handle that. But I can't sit here and say that at 39 he has not played well enough for this team to be better. And Anthony Davis, who's somebody who has been kind of the poster child of, whenever something's wrong in LA, they point to AD. I feel like this season you can't really do that because I remember Christmas Day when they played the Celtics, AD went out there and gave you 40. They still didn't win, but he did everything he could. What's going on, Anthony? So, like you said, Brett, it's the pieces that are around them, not named Rui, because I feel like Rui, when he's on the court, fine. I like Rui. Have nothing bad about him. Austin Reeves, I think he's a good player. I think he's another one of these role players that the Lakers fans have kind of overrated a little bit. But I'm not going to say he's an issue because this seems a lot like, remember, Anthony Caruso. You couldn't say anything bad about him. And then he gets traded and they're like, oh my God, we lost Caruso. Trust me, that's not the reason why it's this bad. Or Taylor Horton Tucker. Remember that guy who was untouchable a few years ago? And I saw him the other day in some random place and I was like, oh, I remember when the Lakers wouldn't trade him for anybody. Look how he turned out. Now, I think Reeves is a little bit better than those two, so, might be a little shade towards him. But I feel like with those 3 or 4, you're fine. But the Taurean Princes, the Reddishes, and Christian Wood, I honestly don't know what you're expecting from them. Christian Wood's bouncing around the league for a reason. Cam Reddish is that untapped potential everywhere he goes for a reason. And Taurean Prince has been kind of irrelevant in the NBA for a reason. So just because they put on those Laker colors doesn't mean they automatically get better. So if LeBron has to do his passive-aggressive playing on the media to get the front office to do something, then they better go ahead and do it now. So Jory put, of course, Mr. Boston. I am Mr. Boston. Appreciate that. But she said, I can kind of deal with Reddish and Vanderbilt. The other 2 clowns got to go. I don't know. I don't know how you're getting rid of D'Angelo Russell, who's who would take him on, but you could probably find somewhere to stash him. I mean, Vanderbilt, yeah, because defensively, Vanderbilt gives you that, and defense is a big issue with the Lakers, especially on the perimeter. I've said this for like 3 years now. The Lakers struggle against super athletic teams and teams that can shoot from the outside. Last year's Western Conference Finals run, they had good matchups up until Denver. What can Denver do? Move the ball and shoot from the outside. How did that series go? And that's going to be the same issue this year. Even if they make the playoffs, if they have the right teams they match up against, they'll look good. But when they get to teams like Denver, they will struggle. So, I mean, that's kind of where I see the Lakers. Now it's up to the front office to get it fixed.
Hey, wasn't Christian Wood supposed to be an all-star this year?
Christian Wood was supposed to be a lot of things this year, and he's turned into what I kind of knew he was. A guy you sometimes notice, but he's not a consistent player. And the Lakers need consistency. That's what they need.
Our bad, Jory. Our bad.
Send it to the Pistons. They don't play defense anyway. Exactly. The amount of times I see the Lakers when they're in transition, they just gather in the paint and they just let teams bomb away from the outside. That's a big struggle for them. And look, you're not going to expect LeBron to be chasing guys on the perimeter. Like, if you want to send him to the injured list, have him do that for a few games. Okay, so John has a question. Should we put trust in Dallas? What do you guys think about them?
What do we think about the Dallas Mavericks? Ooh, great team. I don't really see them making noise in the playoffs, but I think they're a great squad, and I think they'll make a good run. But I just don't see them in that upper echelon of NBA contenders with like Denver. I think they'd get smoked by Denver at least. So I could see them making a run to the Western Conference Finals, though. So I think they got a nice squad over there.
Yeah, they're a good team. Like, they have Luka, and as long as you have Luka, you're going to have a chance because he's a fantastic player. And if Kyrie can be a good basketball player and not kind of sabotage the team, they can make some noise. And there's a lot of good that's there. I don't trust their lack of defense. And right now, if the playoffs were to start, they would play Denver in the first round, and I don't think any of us would be picking Dallas to upset Denver in that series. So unless they get favorable matchups, it'd be really hard for me to see them going to the Western Conference Finals like they did. Yeah, they had that run a couple of seasons ago where they looked really good. I don't see it. It's a good roster, but I don't love the Kyrie Irving fit in Dallas. Even when it's working, I'm still worried that there's going to be some part of it that's going to backfire, that's going to implode. I worry about their defense, especially on the perimeter, of them getting torched. So yeah, they're a good team. I like them. I like Luka. He's a great player, but as far as being a legitimate contender, I don't see it this year with his squad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Dallas will be, the cute little regular season team that's fun to watch. But then you get to the playoffs when the competition's a little bit higher. I feel like it's a little bit more physical. I feel like you'll see a Dallas team fade off pretty quickly. But like Brett said, if they can make the Western Conference Finals, you'd have to give them rousing success for that. It would give them something to build off of going into the next couple of years. But also, like you said, Jake, I mean, if you're depending on Kyrie Irving to be there night in and night out for you to win, I don't know how trustworthy that is. But we'll see. They got Grant Williams. They got my boy Grant Williams, who people said the Celtics are crazy not keeping him. How's that looking?
I'll say, hey, Derek Lively's been real good. Great pickup for them. Phenomenal center so far this year.
So John said, I kind of think I would put more trust in the Pelicans, which he did correct that, over Dallas. Just something about Dallas cannot get over the hump. I mean, the Pelicans have probably a bigger question mark than even Dallas. Zion.
I was about to,
Oh, go ahead, Brett.
I was about to ask, like, respectfully, like, what did the Pelicans do to get us to trust them to get over the hump? They've done less than Dallas. Dallas at least made it with Luka to the Western Conference Finals with even less than what this roster had. The Pelicans can't even get Zion to show up for a playoff game.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think at least with the Pelicans, I feel like if you look at the collective talent, they seem like a really good team. But something, because like Alvarado is really good at the point of attack defensively. Brandon Ingram is a really good scorer off the wing. You have CJ McCollum. You know, you have Valanciunas. You have Zion. Like, it seems like they have the ingredients to be a really good team. It's just, for whatever reason, you know, Zion being one of them, they just haven't put it all together all at the same time. So maybe that's where John's coming from.
Yeah, but McCollum's declining. I can play Valanciunas off the court due to his slow foot speed in the playoffs. So I get it. I see where he's coming from because the talent should be there, but like I just don't understand like where. Like I said, why should I trust them more than Dallas at this point? They've proven even less.
Yeah, good point. Jake, got anything on the Pelicans?
I mean, it'd be cool to see him make a good run. Zion, when he's at his peak, is pretty phenomenal, but I can't trust him. You look at his stats; he's averaging right now, like, was it 22, 6, and 4? Like, I think he had better numbers his rookie season. Like, it just feels like what he used to be and what we thought he would eventually become just isn't what he is now. And we have to kind of accept that. And I think that's kind of what we're all kind of getting to here is like, yeah, if Zion was peak Zion, what he could be, I would have a lot more trust in this team because this team has a really good roster. They have really good pieces. I really like Brandon Ingram a lot. Mm-hmm. But with Zion just putting up 22, 6, and 5, it's like, oh, that's cool. I mean, it's not a bad stat line, but nothing that's going to get me excited or make me think that this team can compete with Denver, with Oklahoma City, with the Clippers, with any of these other teams that are in their conference. I don't see it. I have way more trust in Luka than I have in Zion for sure.
Huh?
Zion has like the work ethic of Ben Simmons, and that's what's scary. They almost have a similar career arc. They started as a certain player, and they haven't improved. Like,
you know, that's a great point.
Actually, is a pretty good
identical.
I never made that thought because it's funny. You look at Ben Simmons, and like he never improved. His career was always the same, and what you saw was really good. But there's always like, oh, if he improves this or improves that. And Zion, it's kind of the same. Now, for him, it's been more, they said bigger injuries, whereas Ben is kind of more mental. But at the same time, like Zion, take care of your body, dude. You have hundreds of millions of dollars. You have all this opportunity to have someone give you a diet so that you can stay in shape. Why aren't you doing it? And it's probably just his mentality for it, which is similar to Ben Simmons. That's a great take.
Yeah. John had another one. Magic or Pacers down the stretch? I know we like those Magic, but pretty equal teams. Now, Brett, you've been on the Magic even before the season, so let you start with this one: Magic or the Pacers down the stretch?
I think the answer, and I don't want to sound biased, but I think it's the Magic, and the big reason is the Magic play both sides of the ball better. I think it's that simple. The Indiana Pacers are fun. They're a fine offensive team, but the issue with them is they're scoring 140. They're giving up 145. They run a defensive system a lot of the times where they don't play help defense, so they can get out and transition, which is almost fine. Like if like the Celtics were playing it when you have 5 great defenders, but when the Pacers have like approximately like half a good defender and Bruce Brown, like that's not a good system to be playing. So I don't see the Pacers really doing much in the playoffs, but I think they'll be fun, but I do think they'll be worse than the Magic.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly there, Brett. It's Orlando. You have to take the Magic, and it's because they play defense. And defense matters, especially when we get into later parts of the season and the postseason. You can't be playing basketball where you're just trying to run in transition. We know the game slows down in the postseason. We know transition teams really do struggle. And so I've taken the Magic. I really like Indiana. I love Halliburton. I love a lot of what they're doing. They're super fun to watch. But if I had to make a bet, it's Orlando, and it's not even close.
I mean, when I watch the Pacers play, it's kind of weird that one of their better perimeter defenders is Aaron Nesmith, who was a guy who was credited as being a really good three-point shooter. And I feel like the games I've seen him play, which has mainly been when they play the Celtics, he struggles from three, but he plays pretty good defense. Don't know how that's happened, but if Aaron Nesmith is what you're relying on for your perimeter defense, you probably have some issues.
My favorite thing I saw is somebody tried to really cope with the Pacers' bad defense, and somebody wrote an article on how Buddy Hield was a very versatile defender because he guards fours. And I was just reading, I was like, no, absolutely. He guards fours because anybody with any semblance of speed gets by him so easily that he has to guard fours. Right. I don't think they want to throw 6'4" Buddy Hield onto a power forward. So overall, it's just all bad down in Indiana on the defensive side of the ball, and let's hope Halliburton isn't out for too long. Otherwise, it's going to get real bad on the offensive side too.
Right, that's going to be a big key for them. And look, they're going to be a team that is going to be fun to watch in the regular season, but in the playoffs, they're going to have to be crazy efficient offensively if they want to be serious contenders. Because if they struggle in any game, and then now they're going to have to try to rely on their defense, or it's non-existent, to try to stop teams from scoring, they will get into some issues there. But Halliburton, he can keep them in games because this is a guy who's shooting step back threes with no problem. He's got great vision. He doesn't turn the ball over either. And for a guy who has the ball in his hands as much as he does, that's definitely a positive offensively. But they're gonna have to figure out something defensively, and they need to do it pretty soon. Let's see. I mean, Steven did add the Thunder surprising him this season. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say that they're a surprise. Like, we've kind of been seeing this for the past couple of years. Like, this has been building with Oklahoma City. I mean, maybe you want to say Chet might be a surprise since he missed last year and I guess the impact that he's having. But I think we all thought the Thunder were going to be much better this year.
I thought Oklahoma City would be good. They have a really good roster. They're really deep. We all love SGA, and the leap that he's taken, even from last year to this year, has been fantastic. I think the big one is Chet. We were wondering, how good is he going to be? How much weight can he put on? How strong can he be? Because that was really the only concern that I had for Oklahoma City was how good was he going to be? And now it's looking like he's going to win Rookie of the Year over Wembanyama. So I think that's the only part that'd be a surprise. I probably wouldn't have him as like the 2 seed halfway, approaching the halfway part of the season. But, I had them being a top 4 team in the West. I really liked what I saw from him heading into the season.
Not only Chet and SGA, but Jalen Williams has taken a big jump as well.
That too, yep.
That kid's been phenomenal. I knew he'd take a leap. He looked good, but he's taken more than a leap. And I've been overall impressed with how they're developing those young guys. And it's starting to get to a point where they're going to have to start considering trading off, maybe like some of these young talent, like maybe Josh Giddey or someone for like win now talent. I think they're that close, and they got the picks to get anybody they want in the league. At this point, the question is, when do they think they're ready to make their move?
Yeah, that's
a good point. Very good point. But they should, they're right there. They're one big trade away from being one of those legit teams that you're going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to see them playing in June.
Right.
One trade.
So Detroit, look at Oklahoma City's doing. Try to copy that. That's your model. Even Orlando was kind of in the same situation as Detroit was not too long ago. And Orlando's figured it out. Why Detroit hasn't, I still don't know. Well, all right, that's all the questions we got. So I guess we could move on to the NFL. But before we do that, a quick word from the network.
What's up, everybody? It's Catrell Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to the games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. So we are back. That's Wire to Wire. Make sure you catch them tomorrow night right here on the network. Brett's rocking the merch. They'll definitely talk about the College Football Championship, which we didn't talk about that, but we can talk about that at the end of the show. They'll talk about NBA, NFL, all that good stuff, so make sure you tune into those guys. All right, so now for us, the segment that everybody loves, our overreactions, is Week 18. It's the last regular season week for overreactions, but we will have playoff overreactions because we just got to keep it going. So we usually start with Jake. So, Jake, what is your first overreaction to Week 18?
My first overreaction, and I'm going to admit this is totally biased. I have no issue with the Saints scoring that last touchdown against the Falcons. As a diehard Saints fan, first of all, I hate the Falcons. Why it's such a big deal? Like, Arthur Smith, you knew you were getting fired. Those 7 points wasn't going to keep you your job. You weren't going to save your job. You weren't going to be working for the team. You got fired before Sunday even ended. Like, you were done. This is an actual rivalry. Like, rivalries have kind of dipped in the NFL. We always talk about the Ravens and the Steelers. Mm-hmm. Saints Falcons, for as bad as those two teams have historically been, there is real hatred. And for you to do that, you're at home. You know you're probably not making the playoffs. You want to go out with some good momentum. I have no problem with it. And there's all this drama where Jameis Winston, the players made the audible, and Dennis Allen's like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Man, it's your biggest rival. You want to give the home crowd a lot of juice. You want to make sure any Falcons fans in the stadium are really getting, don't want to say harassed, but getting booed on. Like, I have no problem with it. I loved it. I had no issues with it. I love seeing Arthur Smith drop an F-bomb and getting all pissed at the 50-yard line. It was great. It was fantastic. I want more of that. And I would have been fine with it if it was the Falcons doing that to the Saints. Like, I'll be like, hey, man, you know what? We should have stopped him. Like, I'm not going to be complaining. We just should have stopped him and not gotten blown up. It was 17-17 and a half, and then it ended up being, 48-17? Come on. Like, have some heart in the second half.
I mean, I figured you wouldn't have an issue with it. I didn't really have one either. I know some people were talking about they were in the victory formation and then ran the play out of it. That's where they were wrong. And then the Jameis Winston stuff after the game where he's like, oh, DA wasn't in on it. It was me and the guys in the huddle. We decided it. I mean, that was a little much because now Dennis Allen's sitting there having to apologize for something he supposedly didn't know anything about. But I get what you're coming from. It's the defense's job to stop him. I said this during the Patriots year when they were running up on everybody and everybody was like, oh, the unwritten rules. Who cares about unwritten rules? I'm done with unwritten rules. Just like when the Raiders had the charges on the fence, I said keep going. And they did. And it was beautiful to watch. So I agree with you there. Brett, what's your overreaction?
Oh. Hey, maybe Arthur Smith had in his contract. If they have less than 45, maybe that's why he was slowing down. We'll give the benefit of the doubt here.
Right.
No, my overreaction, really simple. Caleb Williams is going to come in and fix all the Bears' problems.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of issues going on right now with Chicago.
Yeah.
I do think that they showed improvement. But at the end of the day, I don't think getting a new rookie quarterback in there is going to come in and really fix your franchise. As much as I believe in Caleb Williams and think he's going to be a great quarterback,
mm-hmm.
I think that if these Bears fans are expecting him to come in and take them to the NFC Championship or anything too crazy his first year,
Mm-hmm.
I think they got to tone down their expectations because I think they'll be looking at C.J. Stroud and what he's doing and set that as the bar for Caleb Williams. And I think it's unfair to put that on a rookie quarterback, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. Bears fans are. So if you were running the Bears, Brett, what would you do in terms of the draft and the quarterback position?
So I think I would still draft Caleb Williams. I've swapped. I've switched. I'm drafting Caleb Williams and trading Justin Fields. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about. Apparently, the dog doesn't agree with me.
Yeah, your dog's not flying with that one.
Listen, I know
he's a Justin Fields guy. What can you say?
I am a Justin Fields guy, but I just think he's going to do better elsewhere in a better situation. And I think they just need to go restart, get a new coach, marry the coach of the quarterback, like Gene and Noe says, and just start over and let everybody have a fresh start.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. It's tough. It really depends, like, what package you could get for giving up the number 1 pick and how far you have to drop down. If you could get a king's ransom, it'd be tempting to get that capital. And then if it doesn't work, use that capital to get a quarterback in another draft. But I want Justin Fields to be the guy. I really do. Chicago Bear fans, even when they're their most annoying, they deserve to have a quarterback at least once that's good, that can at least perform. And I want that to be Fields. There's just been so many times where I just haven't trusted it. Even with the success he had to kind of wrap up the season, I'm hesitant to fully buy into it after there's so many times where it just doesn't look like it's going to click. It's just not going to fully work. And that's hard when you have Caleb Williams there to pass up on. So they're almost in a no-lose situation. If you get Caleb Williams, great. If you get a great draft haul, like they did this past offseason, great.
My overreaction, the Jets showed why they haven't won anything. I'm watching that game against the Patriots. Sure, they won 17-3. Who cares? It's their first win against the Patriots in God knows how long. But the fact that they were celebrating doing snow angels any chance they could and were dancing around like they won the Super Bowl lets me know why I can't stand the Jets and why they will never win anything. That's why their biggest celebrity is sitting on a couch talking to Pat McAfee every week and is not throwing touchdown passes for you. But hey, you celebrate a Week 18 win, and you're not even going to the playoffs either. That was the other thing. But, it is what it is. They beat my team. Now everybody thinks Belichick's getting fired, and if he does, I guess I'll just say the Jets did it to him, and it'll be another reason for me to hate the Jets. So my overreaction is I can't stand the Jets. Will never stand the Jets. I just want them to go 5-12 next season with Aaron Rodgers. I'm there with them.
I just want to point out that all three of us, our overreactions involved our team's bitter rival, like teams that we don't like. I just love that for us as this podcast of just like, man, the Falcons, screw them. We all know about Kyle's undying hatred for the Jets and the Packers-Bears rivalry with Brett. It was great. We didn't plan that either. For the record, like we just go into this blind. We don't know we're going to overreact. But that was fantastic.
And no, John, I don't want a Jets birthday cake because I guarantee you, I'm not eating one piece of it. I don't care what kind it is.
You'll get food poisoning from that thing.
Yeah.
Send you a cake with an Aaron Rodgers cake topper on it.
I will tell you where that will end up, in the trash. Just like his Jets career will be trash. All right, I'm done. I'm done with the Jets. All right, let's go for another round. Jake, what you got?
I don't like saying this one. I think Trevor Lawrence is just going to be a good quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be a great quarterback that we saw. Everyone said best prospect since Andrew Luck, and before that, Peyton Manning. And we saw that in college. Like, he had all the tools. I get that he's been hurt. I get that the last 5 games that he's played, he's had like 3 different injuries. But watching that Titans game, you can't be hurt and missing balls that bad. It just, there were so many opportunities where they should have won the game. Tennessee, No, listen, Jory, I'm sorry, but they had nothing to play for. Tennessee had absolutely nothing to play for, and Tennessee was playing like they had something to play for. Jacksonville really didn't have it. Trevor Lawrence just looked off, and I want to see him be successful. We've been kind of waiting, like we said, okay, that Urban Meyer year we don't really count because Urban Meyer's the worst head coach we've ever seen, and rightfully so. Like, he was terrible. I just don't. He shouldn't have made the leap this past season, and he just didn't. He's good. He's a good quarterback. He's a top, above average quarterback, probably top 14, top 12, but he'll never be that top 5 quarterback that people want him to be or think that he'll be.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Past few years, we've had, kind of a open dialogue about Josh Allen, and it was Justin Herbert, and now it seems like Trevor Lawrence is the new guy that everybody's trying to figure out where does he fit in terms of these quarterbacks. Because, yeah, Jake, I think before the season, a lot of people would have said Trevor Lawrence, top 5, easy, no question about it. But now it's like, I don't know. Maybe he's just bottom top 10 at best.
Yeah, he's like the 8th to 12th best quarterback at his very best. Not bad. I mean, this team was 8-3, and I get they had injuries, but you can't go 8-3 and miss the playoffs and not have some sort of punishment or judgment or ramifications from that. Like the Eagles had a really bad way to end the season, and we're grilling them. Jacksonville should be just as guilty for going 8-3, talking about the 1 seed because they had such an easy schedule to kind of wrap things up. And then missing the playoffs. You can't do that and not be roasted by it in the media.
All right. Brett, what's your next one?
Oh, I think that my next overreaction is going to be going to the Carolina Panthers, all their offensive struggles. Seen a lot of people doing this. It's all Bryce Young's fault. So pump the brakes on that one. Listen, first off, he showed what he could do if he actually has a little time to throw, but against the Packers, unfortunately. But let's be real. He got drafted into a team with the worst skill position group in the NFL. Like, they have absolutely no weapons. They could use a guy like DJ Moore. You got guys like Jonathan Mingo actively trying to jump out of bounds to catch a ball. It is one of the most insane NFL clips I've seen this year. Nobody can create separation, so you got this kid trying to throw into tight windows all game. But that's apparently all of his fault. Listen, I still believe in Bryce Young, and I think it's time to a lot of people just stop overreacting like he's the entire problem of that Panthers offense. He's got hardly any time to throw. He's throwing into tight windows. There's nothing positive you can say about that offense, so let's pump the brakes and give Bryce Young some more time.
Well, the biggest thing that hurt Bryce Young was C.J. Stroud in Houston. The fact that he went after him and the success that he had put a spotlight on Bryce Young, because I feel like your rookie season, you are allowed to struggle. Like, it's okay. The college game to the NFL, it's a change. He's allowed a year, maybe even 2 years, to fully show what he can be. But yeah, C.J. Stroud in the season that he had in Houston was not good for Bryce Young. It's 2 different situations, but still.
No, it wasn't good. And look, C.J. definitely was a bigger problem, but let's not act like we get Carolina has a bad roster. They have a bad offensive line, no skill position players. But even then, he hasn't looked good from what we've seen. Bryce Young just... I'm not saying he's going to be a bust or anything like that. We have to give him more than 1 season, but there's nothing on there that's been giving me like rays of hope to look forward to for next off season. Now he can get better. They drafted an offensive line, get some wide receivers, kind of retool the offense. Sure, I won't be surprised at all if he turns into a really good quarterback. But to be fair, like, the difference between C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young has been pretty stark.
Well, of course Bryce Young's not going to give you flashes or look any good. His offensive line can't protect him, and there's nobody creating separation. So he's throwing under pressure into impossibly tight windows unless he's playing Joe Barry. Like, I think this Bryce Young slander is out of control. Like, of course, as a horrid situation, there's not many people. I'm not even sure if C.J. Stroud is succeeding in that one.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
So my overreaction, Mark Davis, the man with the crazy bowl cut. Whatever you go to the barbershop and ask for, more power to you, because you sit on TV every week and you seem fine with it. I guess that's what being rich will do. You don't care. But listen to your players and just hire Antonio Pierce. I get it. Jim Harbaugh's out there, and you're loving the fact that he may even want to work for you. But you've done this before, chased the big name, and it's blown up in your face. Just take Antonio Pierce. You don't have to give him some crazy 6-year deal. You give him 2 years. Let the players know that you recognize what Pierce did this season after the mess that McDaniels left, and reward him for it. You might not get all the headlines in the, on Sports Center and everything like that, but just show you could be competent and make a good move. Just hire Antonio Pierce, call it a day, and then move on to the other issues you have, because you still got plenty of issues in Vegas, but at least get the coach right. Because I'm afraid that they're going to sit there and chase Harbaugh, not get him, and then in the case where they're doing all that, Pierce slips out of the building and goes somewhere else, and now they're going to be left trying to find their next Antonio Pierce and just pick some random person and completely screw up what Antonio Pierce seemed like he was kind of building at the end of the season. So just hire him and keep him moving.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, don't make the dumb move. Don't chase things. Don't hire a coach who's going to be really expensive when you're already paying 2 other coaches and you're quote unquote a dirt poor owner. Like he always goes on to say, like, hire a Pierce, get him to a good contract that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, get some continuity, and go from there. I think the players want to play hard. If the players want to play hard for your coach, that's like 30% of coaching is getting your guys to show up and play hard. And if you have a guy that can already do that, it's easy. Just make the hire.
Yeah. John said compare Lawrence and Young's first season stats. Same stats other than the sacks. Yes, Bryce Young did get hit a lot. Now the fear is going to be, does he turn into David Carr? Remember, David Carr's rookie season, he got hit all the time. And it seemed like that really stunted his growth. And he was never, I guess, what he was supposed to be.
Nope, never was.
I think Bryce Young will be fine, but that's something that they do have to worry about, him getting hit way too much in his rookie season. All right, I think we can go on to our picks and everything, because we got to make sure we have enough time for the playoffs and coaching and all that stuff. So we'll be right back after another word from the network.
Hey guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What do we talk about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ECHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the professional women's hockey league.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, and
you can follow me at RevanEv. Or you can also go to twoguysandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey. Right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, we're back. Two Guys in Hockey Talk is tomorrow night, right after Wire to Wire. Even if you're not a hockey fan, tune in. They'll teach you something. They'll make you laugh. It's a great show. I tune into it all the time. Thought I had a graphic for the coaching stuff, because I wanted to actually get to that before our picks. So let me see here really quickly. But while I'm looking that up, we can definitely talk about... I actually don't have one. Okay. So we'll just talk about the coaching, and then we'll get back to the graphics with our picks. So, as you know, what happens at the end of every season, Week 18 comes and goes, and then we learn the fate of some coaches. We talked about Arthur Smith. The lasting image of him in Atlanta. Getting mad at Dennis Allen because that 48th point set him over the edge. But we had some other surprising news happen today. The Tennessee Titans, even with a lot of speculation, what was going to happen with Mike Vrabel, they fired him. Now, once again, I know this has been tough for Jory because as a Titans fan, she didn't want to see him go. I didn't want to see him go because I thought Vrabel was kind of almost like Antonio Pierce, where the players seem to really play for him. And like you said, Jake, that's like 30% of the position. Now, the Titans had a lot of issues on that team. They had quarterback issues all season. Seems like Will Levis might be an answer. But you can't necessarily say if you'd given Levis an offseason with Vrabel, they wouldn't be better next year. Derrick Henry, a lot of questions were about him coming into this season. He had a pretty decent year for being 30 or whatever. So that's something you could build off of. Defensively, there's some pieces there. The O-line is a mess. That's something you can kind of fix in the offseason. So what were your initial thoughts when you saw the breaking news that the Titans had let Vrabel go? Start with you, Jake.
I was surprised. My first thought was if I was a Titans fan, I'd be pissed. I'd be really upset because the issue that I've seen with this Titans team over the past 2 seasons has not been coaching. It's been roster construction. I have not liked what this roster, and it's more than that. Even that year where they were the 1 seed and I think they had like 13 wins, I didn't love their roster. I've never loved Tannehill as a quarterback. I've never loved a lot of the pieces that they've had. They had A.J. Brown, let him go for next to nothing, it felt like, for how good he actually is. I feel like the problems have been in the front office with their roster selection, with their drafting, with their quarterback play. I haven't loved it. Vrabel is a good coach. He's a great coach. His offense might not be the most advanced, hot, flashy, sexy that you're going to see, but it works. The thing is, it feels like he's so much smarter than 90% of other coaches. That he just gets ways to scheme them, no matter how bad the team is. No game is just going to be an easy game. Even when they get blown out, they're always playing hard. They're always trying their best. They always seem to be well prepared. My issue was, again, with the Titans, it just felt like they were just a bad roster, and that's not Mike Vrabel's fault. That's the front office's fault. So I was really surprised. I don't think he's going to be very long. I think he's going to be one of the top people hired. I think everyone's looking at Vrabel. A lot of people are looking at Ben Johnson for the Detroit Lions OC as a big head coach. I think he has to be one of the top 3 guys you're going to consider, and I just don't see how Tennessee is going to improve when you fire Vrabel. Like, how much better are you going to be with a new coach? I don't see it. There has to be something behind the scenes between either ownership and the GM and the coach that's causing this strife for this to go on, because I just don't see it. I don't see why they should fire him. I get they had a bad record, but they had a bad roster.
Brett?
I was going to say the same thing as Jake pretty much, because there's like a little paragraph I'm looking at. It's like a whole paragraph of players that they lost this past offseason. And these aren't all second, third, fourth stringers. You got guys like Taylor Lewan, Austin Hooper, Nate Davis, These are key pieces to your team just last year. So you got the roster and then are shocked when the team underperforms to your standards? It's wild to me. I thought it was a terrible move. I think Vrabel's going to get pricked up really quickly here. And I just think it's just a bad move. It's short-sighted. You think that you can change the coach and everything's going to magically change, when in reality, that's not going to be the case unless you fix this roster.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vrabel was a Patriots player. I loved watching him. He's a guy that I thought was a really good coach. John put the last 2 years were not up to par, but like Brett said, they've lost some key pieces on that team the past couple of years, plus the A.J. Brown trade, which Vrabel did not make that trade. That was the GM who did that. And, tell me that this Titans team right now wouldn't look better with A.J. Brown on it. So I feel like it was kind of short-sighted from Tennessee's point to fire him after this year. Now, we'll have to see. We'll have to see who they hire, and maybe that changes our opinions a little bit. But John put 54 and 45 in 6 seasons. It's not terrible. I mean, there's other coaches who are worse than that. Have a job. So, I mean, I get it. 6 and 18 in his final 24. Yes, it was just a rough stretch, but we'll see. You know, I also agree that Vrabel probably won't be in the unemployment line for too long, especially if you listen to some of the rumors out there, which I guess we'll get into that in a little bit.
I was going to say, man, what are your thoughts about him going to Boston?
Oh, man.
Because that makes all the sense in the world. If you look at it, I'll speak from a non-Patriots point of view.
Yeah.
It makes all the sense in the world. If you're going to move on from Bill Belichick, you go get Mike Vrabel. He comes, even though he's not part of Belichick's coaching tree, he's more or less, he's a Belichick guy. He's defensive oriented. He's attention detailed. He gets players to show up. He gets them to play hard. He's extremely smart. The New England fans would not only would they root for him because he's a big part of their past success, but he coaches in a way that New England fans would want to see their team be coached. Like it just makes perfect sense for him to go there. It'd be a great homecoming. It would add some juice and some energy into the Patriots that have just been kind of, I don't want to poo-poo on your team, but it feels like they're just waiting for this whole Bill Belichick thing. Like, is he going to get the coaching record with us? Are we going to move on? It creates some finality there, and you bring in a coach that's a home run hit as opposed to a potential unknown. So for me, it makes all the sense in the world. But what are your thoughts? Would you want him as your coach as a Patriots fan?
So I do think this complicates things with Vrabel being available. I've always been under the assumption that Vrabel, even with all the smoke that was out there, was going to stay in Tennessee and he was going to be taken out of the equation in New England. Because I thought at the end of the Jets game, Belichick gave us some information that he normally doesn't give us. He said he's open to losing the GM role. And I said this all season. I could see at the end of the year, Robert Kraft sitting down with Belichick and saying, if you want to stay here, you can't be GM. And it was going to come down to whether or not Belichick could handle that. If he said no, we would see mutually parting of ways. If he said sure, he'd come back next year. So the fact that he said that, and then they said Josh McDaniels has popped up in the building. I wonder why. Because Josh McDaniels, whenever he fails as a head coach, he becomes an offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick. So if they hired McDaniels, that automatically tells you that Bill is staying. Because I've always thought, and Robert Kraft has not made it a secret, that he loves Gerard Mayo. And I think the report was like Belichick signed a 2-year extension this offseason. So if next year is the last year on the deal, then you could just play it off as he's continuing to mentor Mayo. Contract runs out, Mayo takes over, and the fans would love Mayo because the same way they would love Vrabel, he's another New England guy. It don't matter. You could have Houdini as coach. You cannot help Zappy or Mac Jones. I agree with that. But they have the 3rd pick. I think, it's been finalized. They have the number 3 pick.
3rd pick.
So if the Bears were to take Caleb Williams, fine. And then you figure, I can't remember who has the 2nd pick.
Washington's going to take a quarterback.
So Washington probably takes Drake May because everybody assumes those are the 2 that are gone. Now the question would be, at 3, do you take, I don't know, Jaden Daniels? Do you take Penix? Do you trade back and try to get one of them? I don't see Bo Nix going number 3 next year.
No,
dude's like 35. I mean, come on.
they take Marvin Harrison before Bo Nix. I could legitimately see Marvin Harrison. If those top 2 prospects are gone, they're like, let's get the best wide receiver prospect we've ever seen, and that'll give maybe go for some free agent as a quarterback as opposed to drafting a quarterback in the 1st round. I could see that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, if you're number 3, it would be very enticing to get Marvin Harrison because what do they say? New England doesn't have any playmakers. Well, Marvin Harrison is the best playmaker coming out of college. Now, I don't know if you can't get the free agent that you want. I don't know, would Patriots fans be okay with Bailey Zappi throwing to Marvin Harrison? Probably
What
not.
about Russell Wilson coming in?
It's unlimited.
Come on, man. He'd be a cheap quarterback because Russell Wilson's not going to take a big deal because he wants Denver to pay. Get him on a cheap deal. Let him throw to Marvin Harrison if he gets a good OC. Like, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. I could see that. He's a good locker room guy.
I wouldn't be mad about that. Well, John said don't be surprised. Tom Brady wasn't expected to go first 3 rounds. Bo Nix is pretty accurate. That's true, but I also don't think you need to use the 3rd pick to get him.
When Bo Nix is already older than most guys who are entering the final year of their rookie contract, I doubt they're gonna use the 3rd pick on him. Like, they want somebody young with potential. And I'm not saying Bo Nix doesn't have any, but if I can get somebody 4 years younger with just as much potential.
Exactly. Like, if you told me they got Harrison in the 1st round and Bo Nix in like the end of the 2nd round or something like that, sure, I could live with that. But if they go up there, pick 3, and commissioner goes out of the University of Oregon, Bo Nix,
that's bad.
I might lose it.
That's bad. He's going to be 24 years old before the draft starts, just for the record.
I overshot with 35, but
24 for a rookie? Like, how old is Trevor Lawrence? Like, dude, let me look real quick here. Like, Trevor Lawrence, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is 24. And he's been in the league. Like, he's coming up on his big deal.
But all that means is Bo Nix is ready.
Okay.
Ready.
I'm not going to hate on Bo Nix either. Like, I love the Ducks. I grew up in Oregon. It's great, but I mean, is he going to be a first-round quarterback? I don't think. I won't as a GM. I'll put it that way.
Mac Jones was drafted. Look, Mac Jones has been beaten down enough. I'm not going to do it again. Okay. I still think they would have taken Fields if the 2 of them were available. I have a feeling that Belichick would have gone Fields. I just think he was okay with either one and just took Mac because the Bears jumped ahead and got Fields. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, there you go. Bill can now jump ahead and right that wrong and trade for Justin Fields this offseason.
Now, if he does that, I'm throwing a party.
What if it involves a 3rd overall pick?
I don't care. Who needs Marvin Harrison, right?
Who needs Marvin Harrison? We have Justin Fields.
Justin Fields will run around. He'll give Tyquan Thornton, he'll give Demario Douglas enough time to get downfield, and we'll just win that way. It's big play all day. All right.
There we go.
That's the motto. I don't know. This draft is going to
we talked about
the number 3 picks is going to make me lose it one way or the other. I don't know.
It is.
Make sure to record your reaction.
I will be on the network because Sideline to Sideline does a draft thing. We did one last year, and we're doing it again this year. So you guys will see me.
I'm looking forward
to
it.
My live reaction to the number 3 pick right here on the network. If that's not a tease, I don't know what is. But
back to the question: do you want Mike Vrabel as your coach?
I would love to see if they moved on from Belichick, and I do think Mayo's not ready. If you bring in Mike Vrabel, I feel like like you said, the fan base would love it. He was just put into like the Patriots Ring of Honor.
Yep.
And now you're bringing him as the coach, and you know what you're getting from him. He's a no-nonsense guy. And I guess take these last 2 years out of it, his teams usually play maybe a little bit over their head. And I think Patriots fans would definitely connect with that, and I would be fine. Yeah. What did John say here? If he does crazy draft picks, I'm getting Cat Williams to send some smoke to the organization. All right. All right, John. I see where you're going. All right, so let's get into some of these other openings because John happened to do this for us. Commanders, Falcons, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, and Titans. He also put the Saints, but I'm pretty sure they said Dennis Allen's staying.
And my understanding, everything I've heard is Dennis Allen is safe. Now, personally, I would love to see him be fired. I don't love Dennis Allen. I've also heard rumors that John Gruden might be.
I heard that too.
Why do the Saints have this fascination with like poaching former Raiders. Like, of all the organizations to pick from, let's pick the one that's been like the most unstable. Why? No, I don't want anything to do with John Gruden. I didn't want Derek Carr. I don't want Dennis Howe. Like, no, there's a reason I'm not a Raiders fan. Like, I don't want to be a Raiders fan. Don't make this Raiders Southeast.
So
hey, Derek Carr's already in the building. Just make him the head coach.
Say you don't want Hunter Renfrow to be signing this offseason.
Darren Waller, baby.
That would not surprise me if they went after Darren Waller. Like, he went there, he washed up with the Giants, and then that'd be terrible.
So, all right. So bringing it back to this, looking at these 6 jobs that are available, which one do you think is the best job? I mean, you got the Commanders.
I can't say the Falcons because I hate the Falcons, but that is if they get the quarterback position right, they have a lot of really good pieces. They're going to have some cap space. They're in a very winnable division, as we've seen. They're going to have a very easy schedule next year. I think based off of this past year's standings, they have the easiest schedule in the league. Got to give some props to the Falcons, as much as I hate to say it, but I want to make sure people don't sleep on the Commanders. Like, yes, this team was really bad. They were kind of phoning it in. Ron Rivera is gone, and he knew he was a lame duck coach pretty much from week 1. But they have, I think they have the most cap space. It's like $90 million in cap space, the number 2 overall pick. You have the ownership that's going after a good GM, that's going after good analytics. It's going to go after a good head coach, where they're not used to that. Like, historically, when you think of the Commanders, you think bad coaches, you think of bad GMs because of Dan Snyder and all the toxic, garbage that was there. They're really wanting to make a big change here. I'm very, I'm in the DMV, so they're in my network as far as for everything I'm seeing. There's a lot of positivity, and I think there's good pieces on that roster. And if you could fix the offensive line, you get a good quarterback, and this team could go maybe not worst to first, because the NFC East does have some good teams, but they could easily be a playoff team with a good coach and a good quarterback and a couple good signings. So don't sleep on the Commanders, because they're trying to rebuild everything that's there, and they got the money to do it.
Okay. Brett, which is the best job out of the 6?
I honestly think it's the 2 teams in the South. Give me either the Falcons or the Panthers. Give me the Falcons because they have such great skill position pieces already. Get the right quarterback. I think the Panthers do also have a good quarterback already. And they had the best, I think I read a stat, they had the best passing defense in football. They got a legit defense. They got a good quarterback. Now they just got to do the opposite. They just got to get those skill position pieces, and that team will be good to go. So honestly, if I'm having trouble picking between the 2, but honestly, I'll pick either one of the Falcons or the Panthers to be a good destination.
Okay. I mean, looking at those 2 teams, the one thing I'll say is Tepper with the Panthers scares me, because that guy is like, he took over for Richardson, who was seen as a bad bad owner. And he comes in, he's like throwing water on fans. He's firing Frank Reich because Frank Reich was right in wanting CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. I just don't know if I'm a young coach looking for my first opportunity, if that's the guy I want to be working for. Now, the opposite of that, Falcons, who I probably would agree with because of their pieces, Arthur Blank seems like a guy you kind of want to work for. He doesn't really meddle too much, other than he'll come down on the sidelines when he thinks you're going to win, and he's kind of standing around there. But if that's the worst that you could say about him, who cares? He seems like he'll back you maybe a little bit too long. But, yeah, I'd probably say the Falcons, because you look at the offensive talent and what their defense is right now, they should be better than 7-10. And the biggest issue you have with that team is your quarterback. That should be an easy fix, whether through the draft or free agency, because I think quarterbacks will want to go there, because you have Pitts, London, you have Robinson, and Algier, who probably doesn't get talked about a lot. He rushed for 1,000 yards last year. So you have a good running back tandem and a really good defense right now. So I'll say the Falcons' job is the best one.
Yeah, Falcons are good. You have to look at how the Falcons season went: 7-10, easy schedule, easy division, and you have to ask yourself, why the hell didn't they at least put an offer in for Lamar Jackson? They were one of the teams that was linked to him. Lamar with this team, with the skill positions there. I'm glad. As a Saints fan, I'm glad because I hate the Falcons. But you have to wonder, if I'm the owner, if I'm Arthur Blank, I'm going to GM being like, why didn't we at least try? Why didn't we at least put an offer in on Lamar? Because that would make this team would probably have at least 11 wins with Lamar based off of what we've seen with Ritter and their other backup quarterback. I always forget his name. Like the quarterback
Heineke?
Yeah, Heineke. Like it's been terrible. Like Lamar would have done so much for this team that you have to wonder why the GM didn't go for it.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot.
You don't believe in Desmond Ritter? Come on.
Not one bit.
No, I forgot David Tepper exists. I'm going to withdraw my Panthers saying. I forgot about him.
It's all right. We got you. All right. So, Jake, you're muted, I think.
Oh, I am muted. Thank you. I do want to say real quick here, a lot of people's gut reaction is going to be the Chargers because Justin Herbert. The Chargers are not in a good situation. They have one of the worst salary cap situations in the league. Their best players, you have their 2 wide receivers, you have all your players on defense. A lot of those guys are going to be gone. Like they can't re-sign everybody with Justin Herbert's big contract coming in. So a lot of people are going to say the Chargers because of Herbert, but that roster is going to be gutted heading into next season on top of bad ownership, not a great home field advantage, not really a team that spends a lot of money. I don't think the Chargers are going to be a marquee name, which is a shame because they're in LA. They have a great quarterback and they should be, but it's just their salary cap position is really, really grim.
And not to mention those key pieces that you think of, they're all aging or injury prone.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So since we have playoff games to get into, I'll let each of you pick one of the jobs and then pick the person you think should get that job. So let's start with you, Brett.
Whew. Oh, this is a tough one. You know what?
I guess I could say, since you said, you did say the Panthers one originally was the best job there. Who would you tab for the Panthers job then?
Oh, this is really tough. I was gonna see, for some reason, Mike Vrabel keeps coming to mind because I think he's going to be the best coach available out of all this. So I think he'd be a good fit to really get the young guys whipped into shape. So I don't think that's where he goes, but I think that would be a perfectly fine fit for the Panthers.
Okay, it's interesting. All right,
I
so
could
Jake,
see that.
all right. So you said the best job was.
Give me Washington. I'm not picking for Atlanta. I can't do it.
I'm about to say, you did say the Commanders. So who would you put?
So let me take Washington. There's one person that's been linked to him that I really like. It's Bobby Slowick, the Texans offensive coordinator. I really like what he's done. Ben Johnson's like the hot, sexy name that everyone's going to go for. And I feel like it's kind of a cop-out just to say go for Ben Johnson. It'd be great. He would do really well here in Washington, in my local area. But give me Bobby Slowick. I really like what he did with CJ Stroud. The offense kept getting hurt for Houston. Game after game after game, they kept going. They kept kind of developing, and I think he should get a lot of praise for what he's done in Houston. And this gives them a young coach they can build with. And I like what I've seen from him. Houston had no right to be as good as they were on either side of the ball, and I think Slowick has a lot to do with it. So I'm going to take him as my head coach for Washington.
All right, and I said the Falcons. I know a lot of people said Bieniemy should go there. I actually think Ben Johnson, because
there you go.
What have we seen in Detroit? They're a team that kind of plays a physical brand of football. They like to run it and then use play action for their passing game. What wouldn't work better than with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier? That same type of mentality. So I'll say Ben Johnson. Like I said, I know a lot of people would say Eric Bieniemy. I mean, I could probably argue Bieniemy might work with the Chargers because they have Herbert. Why not give him the guy who had so much success with Patrick Mahomes? But I'll go Ben Johnson for the Falcons. Jory said Bieniemy can. All right, she wants Bieniemy with the Titans, and I think this was for Brett when he said Vrabel to Carolina. She said he doesn't deserve that hot mess of an owner.
Who does?
Yeah, exactly. For the Panthers, our Ron Rivera reunion, LOL, Washington, Dan Quinn. I keep forgetting Dan Quinn is going to get another coaching job, isn't he?
Probably.
I didn't like his Atlanta stint, but everybody's allowed a second chance. Yeah, Dan Quinn never even crossed my mind. I mean, look, as these signings are happening, we'll definitely talk about it. I'm sure some of these jobs will be filled by the time we come back next week. But let's get into these picks and playoff game. So I will say, your boy had a good week picking games. I went 4-1.
Is this your best week ever?
I mean,
doing this?
Of course, the one I lose was the Patriots. Thank you, Bill Belichick. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Jake and I went 4-1. Brett went 2-3. So Brett filled my role perfectly this week, going under 500. So Jake, you got the Saints, Lions, Texans, and the Bills. Your one loss was the Broncos, who I think were like +3 or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was +3.
Yeah, and they lost by a little bit more than that. So it was close. You almost went 5-0. I had the Texans, Bills, Rams, and the Bucks. My loss was the Patriots, and then Brett had the Texans and his Packers. A loss with the Ravens, Dolphins, and the Browns. So for the regular season, Jake is 43-35-2. Brett 21-16-1, and I'm 34-45-1. So we will make picks for the playoff games. I believe there's like 13 of them or 16. Can't remember what the number is. If I get them all right, I can end up over 500.
There you go, man.
Goal.
There you go. I believe in you.
That makes one of us. So looking at the playoffs. So this is the road to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. You have your Ravens as the 1 seed in the AFC, which if you didn't know that, take 2 seconds on Twitter or Facebook and somebody will remind you that they're the number 1 seed. The Niners are the number 1 seed in the NFC. So the one question I really have is, between the Niners and the Ravens, who has the tougher road to Vegas? Now that we know what playoff teams are there, what the matchups are, who they could possibly face, who would have a tougher road getting to Vegas?
For me, when I look at this, I'm going to say Baltimore, and it's just because I think Cleveland is going to play Baltimore. If Cleveland wins, Cleveland's going to play them really, really tough because Cleveland is a very physical team. They're going to make it very ugly, very muddy, very slow, very painful. They're going to just try and win at the line of scrimmage. And I don't think Cleveland's going to win, but it's not going to be as easy of a win as San Francisco, where you're either playing Tampa Bay, who they're going to roast, or the Eagles, who are just falling apart. Like, it's going to be an easy first round win. They should both make the Super Bowl. Like, they're the only 2 teams that I consider to be really good teams in the NFL is Baltimore and San Francisco. But that Cleveland game, I could see weird stuff happening. These teams have played each other twice before. They're division rivals. It's very hard to play a team 3 times in one season. So I'm going to say Baltimore has a slightly tougher road.
Okay. Brett, you agree?
Oh, yeah. Easily. It really just comes back to what he said. I don't think the 49ers really play any real competition till the conference finals. Like, the Eagles are completely coming undone. The Buccaneers are I don't think on their best day they're really touching the 49ers. On the other hand, the Ravens, the Browns are hot. So if they run into Cleveland, they're running into a hot team. Say the Bills, if they run into the Bills, are hot. Like half these teams, unless they happen to run into the Dolphins, these are teams that have just been winning and they've been really hot. So I think that's just tougher for the Ravens overall.
And I'll agree. I think the Ravens, they have the tougher road. Bruce Harper, what's going on? Feel the Eagles will turn it around as they are a veteran team with great talent. Bruce, I was there with you for about the past 5 weeks now, and they seem to lose every game. So I don't know. But they definitely do have the talent to turn it around. But I will say the Ravens have the tougher road because, like you said, if the Ravens, who are the 1 seed, have the bye, and if they wake up not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend, and have the Browns in their building, that's going to be tough because now you'd be looking at a Joe Flacco-led team that's just on a crazy winning streak and have all the momentum facing a Ravens team that's been in this position before and lost early on in the playoffs. So that's got to be in the back of the minds of the organization. I would say Buffalo, but something about Josh Allen. I just don't get it with him.
It's a roller coaster.
But I mean, I wrote them off early in the season. I was here like, yes, my prediction of them not making the playoffs is going to hit. Then they turn into world beaters in the middle of the season. And I'm like, crap, what's going on here? And then in a game that they needed to win for the AFC East, he went back to his old self, just throwing jump ball passes for no reason. I mean, Collinsworth was being entertained by it, but I was just like, is this the dude that's going to carry the Bills in the playoffs and get them tough wins? I don't know, because I still don't know what we're going to get from him. So, Josh Allen.
Yeah, man, when Josh Allen is at his peak, when Josh Allen's at his peak, he's just as good as any other quarterback, but when he's playing his worst, man, it's bad. His bad is bad, but his good is good. So it just depends which Josh Allen we get on each playoff game.
All right, so John said, give me Steelers versus Rams for the Super Bowl and give me my parlay.
If there's a cash out option, dude, take it now. I'm going to say that Steelers team is not touching the Super Bowl unless they buy tickets.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting playoffs. So before we get into the games, let's go with another word from the network.
Hey y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
All right. So, I guess we could do a bit of a lightning round with these picks because don't need to get too much into them. There's the playoffs, but first matchup we have Houston Texans, who got in over after their win against the Colts, Week 18. Upstart team, D'Amico Ryans, CJ Stroud, the story. Going up against that bad man, Joe Flacco, and the Browns. Like, I don't even know. Look, how else can we describe Joe Flacco at this point?
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
doesn't.
how many teams was he on where he was bad? Like, he was on the Jets. He was on, I think, the Broncos. When he was signed with Cleveland, I'm like, well, that's a dumb move because he's washed. Mm-hmm. But then somehow it just works here. Makes no sense.
It's Joe Flacco's world, man. Crazy thing is, this should have been the Deshaun Watson Bowl.
Yep.
Should have had Deshaun Watson versus former team, but we didn't get it. So who do you have winning this one? We have the Texans as a 2.5-point home underdog here on Super Wildcard Weekend. So who are you picking, Jake?
I know everyone's picking Cleveland, and it's kind of, you don't want to be taking the trendy pick, but I'm taking Cleveland. For me, it's not about CJ Stroud versus that bad man, Joe Flacco. It's CJ Stroud versus that defense. It scares me. That Myles Garrett is terrifying. He's absolutely fantastic. The Browns are well coached. They seem to be able to withstand mistakes that Joe Flacco makes. Like they have it built into their game plan that he's going to at least turn the ball over once, and they're going to be fine. They have a great tight end. Like the roster is just really good, and I think Houston getting here is a huge victory for the team. It can't be understated. They should have won. Everyone thought they were going to win like 4 or 5 games. Now they're in the playoffs. It's great.
Yeah.
Super happy for them. But Cleveland's going to win. They're the better team. They're more physical. They're going to be able to control the clock, and I'm taking Cleveland to probably wins by at least 7 points.
Brett, what you got?
Yeah, I'll take the Browns and the Browns money line on this one, and I need it for the sole purpose of I need the prophecy of Joe Flacco knocking the Ravens out of the playoffs to come true. It's gonna happen. I'm here for it.
Okay,
I would love it.
I'm taking the Browns as well, even though I want to root for the Texans because I just love everything they have going right now. But that Browns team's going to be really tough, so I'll take the Browns as well. Okay, so we're all in agreement after one game. Here we go with the next one. The Tyreek Hill Bowl. This is kind of a common theme here. So we have the Dolphins traveling to Kansas City after they couldn't take care of business at home and beat the Bills to face a Chiefs team that good luck predicting what they're going to look like this weekend because they've been so up and down that who knows. So the Chiefs are a 4-point home favorite. How do you see this one going, Jake?
Give me the Chiefs to win this game and to cover. This pains me to say. I love the Dolphins. They're my dad's team. I want to see them win a playoff game. I want to see them do well. But I haven't loved what I've seen from them. They feels like they're getting people hurt, especially on defense, every single week. They lost their 2 best edge rushers. This team just isn't very good. Like they're not a physical team. They're not a tough team. It's going to be very cold. I think that it's going to be like 1 or 2 degrees in Kansas City by the time the game starts. So I don't think that's going to bode well for them. The Chiefs defense, I think they're not great, but they're good enough where they're going to be physical. And I think the Chiefs win this game. Probably something like, it's probably going to be a low scoring game, like 21-17, something kind of along those lines.
Okay. Brett?
I'll take the Dolphins to cover, but I'll take the Chiefs to win. I don't like what I'm seeing out of this Chiefs offense at all. It's a mix of Kelsey's regressing. I think it's pretty apparent at this point. Not to mention these receivers can't catch a cold. However, the Dolphins, I think these past couple of weeks have looked even worse. They just lost a game where Josh Allen tried to hand to them. So I think that this is going to be a really ugly, low-scoring game that the Dolphins keep it close, but the Chiefs do come out on top, probably something along the lines of 24-21.
I'm kind of there with you, Brett, on this one. I just think the Chiefs are they're not going to be explosive enough offensively to put Miami away. So I think Miami's going to continually hang around, and it is going to be low scoring, which I think helps the Dolphins here because I don't like them in, this cold weather environment. We know the history of warm weather teams in January going to cold weather cities. I mean, we don't know what Tua's going to look like in a playoff situation. We know Tyreek Hill, he'll be up for it because he'll want to, stick it to the Chiefs, but he's going to need Tua to get on the ball. And the Chiefs defense has been pretty good. So I do think the Chiefs win it, but it's probably like a field goal game, like you said, Brett. So I'll take the Dolphins to cover this one. John said the Dolphins as well, and he said Browns for the last game. Next up. Well, the aforementioned Josh Allen is welcoming in those Pittsburgh Steelers and Mason Rudolph. Yes, that Mason Rudolph, who Myles Garrett almost sent to the gulag, but he survived. The Bills are a 10-point home favorite. It's a big number for a playoff game. The Steelers, a lot of people thought they weren't going to make the playoffs. They weren't going to finish over 500. Mike Tomlin not only got them to the playoffs, he got them 10 wins. Tell me how that worked out. But how do we see this one going? Do the Steelers have a chance here in Buffalo? Jake, what do you think?
Man, I hate this line. This is terrible, and I don't want to see this matchup because these two teams, like the Bills, there's always going to be one blowout playoff game on Wild Card Weekend, and this could easily be that blowout game where the Steelers just can't do anything. Rudolph comes kind of back to earth. That Bills defense gives pressure on him, all that good stuff, and Josh Allen just goes nuts. Plus, we don't know if pretty sure TJ Watt's going to be out for this week, so that's a big loss for the Steelers. I just worry about Josh Allen having just a Josh Allen game, a bad game where he turns the ball over, and the Steelers are going to be well coached enough where they stick into it. Man, just give me the Steelers to cover.
Okay.
I don't feel good about this. I just think 10 points is too much, and I feel like if I'm having to bet money on this, which obviously we're not, but if I had to, just 10 points is too much to cover, but the Bills win this game. I don't think the Steelers have much of a chance at all.
All right. Brett, do you agree?
I'll actually take the Bills, and I'll take them to cover too. I just think this is going to be brutal for them. I think with TJ Watt out, this is going to be a situation where Josh Allen is not going to feel that much pressure at all. With his absence, he's going to be able to use his legs to extend plays. And on the other side, I don't see Mason Rudolph having as much success as he had these past couple of weeks coming into the playoffs. So I think this will be a blowout. I'll take the Bills, and I'll take them to cover.
Okay. So you have the Bills. Jake's got the Steelers. I'm torn on this one because I could see Josh Allen playing out of his mind and this turning into like a 30-10 type of game. Or Josh Allen throws a couple of picks, the Steelers start feeling better about themselves, and the Bills probably still win it, but it's very close. I'm not going to bet against Mike Tomlin. I think he'll have them ready. He'll have a game plan. I think the Steelers keep it close, so I'll take the Steelers plus 10. Not saying they'll win it, but they won't get embarrassed. That's not a Mike Tomlin thing in the playoffs, unless he's facing Brady and the Patriots,
or letting Blake Bortles drop like 45 on his head.
Hey, Blake Bortles was part of a national championship team in UCF. Okay,
have some respect on that name.
Blake Bortles we're talking about. All right, so next up, a matchup like out of the 90s, Cowboys-Packers. Dak and the Cowboys, who every Cowboys fan will tell you that this is their year, I guess. As John said, this is now the Mike McCarthy Bowl. There's a theme with every one of these games. I kind of like it, except for Bills-Steelers. I don't think there's anything for that one, but whatever. So how much faith we put in Jordan Love? First time in the playoff setting, going to Dallas and Jerry World, 7.5-point favorites for the Cowboys. Jordan Love did what Aaron Rodgers couldn't do last year and win Week 18 and send him to the playoffs. Yes, I had to get Aaron Rodgers in there.
There you go.
Because he plays for the Jets, and I don't like the Jets. Yeah, simple as that. So, Jake, how do you see this one going?
Oh, man. So, Dallas, everything is screaming at you for them to take Dallas. They're 8-0 at home. They play very good at home. They have blowout. I think they have 6 blowout games of their 8 home wins. They just play really, really well at home. The Packers, this is Jordan Love's first playoff game. You worry about Joe Barry's defense. Do we know if Gilmore is out for the Cowboys? I haven't heard if he's in or not, because I know he got banged up a little bit at the end there.
I mean, that's a good question.
But, man, I think the Cowboys win this, but give me the Packers to cover. I think this is going to be a 4-point game. I think the Cowboys, we saw it kind of on Sunday, they can get into spots where they just don't play great. They had some miscommunications against the Commanders, but the Commanders are playing for the number 2 pick. They weren't wanting to win that game. Green Bay does a good job of sticking around in games. They get better as the game goes along. I think they're going to find some way to backdoor cover and try an onside kick, but not recover it. And Dallas wins probably, 28-24, something along those lines. I don't love this because it's a big question mark for Green Bay's defense and for what we're going to see out of Jordan Love. But Give me the Packers to cover.
Okay. Brett, will your Packers do it? Or are you picking the Cowboys?
I think we will. I think even if we lose, I think we'll make it competitive and close. The Packers have been one of the hotter teams as of late. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. The defense, it's been more aggressive these past couple of weeks. It's been looking much better as long as we're not playing Carolina. That doesn't mean I still love it, but I do think we'll be enough to keep it close. Of course, I think we're going to win and send Mike McCarthy job hunting, but even if we lose, I still think that this game is close.
Okay. All right, so you're both taking the Packers. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I'm going to take the Cowboys. I just think the fact that they were 8-0 at home, they play much better at home. And I don't even think it's going to be necessarily like on Jordan Love that they lose, but it's his first experience. And having to go to Dallas, I think that's a tough place for him to kind of get his feet wet in terms of the playoff atmosphere. So I'll take the Cowboys, even if it's 7.5, and I could just see, kind of like you said, Jake, a backdoor cover where it's like a 10-point game. Maybe the Packers kick a field goal and it's 7, and I'm sitting there like, am I really going to lose on the half point again? But I'll take the Cowboys here, and I say they win by 10. So maybe it's like a 27-17 type of thing. And John, once again, referencing this voodoo doll that he swears I have. Voodoo doll, our hopes are in you. All right. I'll do it. I'll do what I can. Next matchup. The Matt Stafford Bowl. Like I said, every bowl except for I'm gonna think of one for the Steelers and Bills. There's gotta be a connection somewhere. But we got Matt Stafford facing his former team in John said QB Bowl. We'll see. We'll see if that sticks. But Stafford facing his former team in the Lions. Lions had a resurgence under Dan Campbell. They win the AFC North. They're a top seed in the NFC. They're a 3.5-point favorite here as well. So, Jake, how do you see this one going? Does Stafford get revenge on his old team?
I don't think he does, and I hope that Stafford doesn't overshadow the fact that Detroit's hosting their first playoff game since I think it's 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it should be a big deal. This should be about Detroit. This shouldn't be about Matt Stafford coming home. Like, he didn't win you a playoff game. He put up good numbers, but he didn't win you a playoff game. The Lions are going to win this game. I really am looking forward to this game. This should be a really tightly contested game. There's all sorts of drama about how is McVay going to know all of Jared Goff's weaknesses and game plan around that. There's a lot to go there. You have to worry about the injuries that Detroit has, but give me Detroit to win. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be under a touchdown, probably between 4 and 6 points. I think Detroit wins and covers.
Brett, what do you think?
I'll take the Rams to cover, but I'll also take them to win. I think this will be a tough back and forth game, but yeah, I think it's a battle where both teams know each other's weaknesses. I think it'll be interesting. At the end of the day, I think I just trust Matthew Stafford more to get it done than Jared Goff.
Okay. This is another one I went back and forth on. I think I'm going to go with the Lions here. I think something to watch will be Dan Campbell and his aggressiveness. Will it work for him in this situation? Will he change kind of his approach? I think it's going to be something to watch throughout this game. Does he go for an unnecessary 2-point conversion, that kind of stuff? But I do think with all the emotion that's going to be there, since it's their first home game, like you said, Jake, in forever, I think the Lions will ride that, especially against Matt Stafford and the Rams. I think they get it done. So I'll take the Lions and the 3.5. All right, so we got one last game. Good old Baker coming off that riveting 9-0 win over those Panthers. They win the NFC North. They get to host the playoff game, and they got the Eagles. If you're a Bucs fan, this might be the right time to get the Eagles as well because of their struggles to end the season. But the Bucs are a 3-point home underdog. So do the Eagles get right finally? We thought it'd be against the Giants. We thought it was going to be against the Cardinals. is it finally against the Bucks that the Eagles get right? So, Jake, how do you see this one going?
Man, this should be the Sunday or the Saturday morning game that like nobody really watches because this game is going to be painful. John there with the great connection. Appreciate
Okay.
that. Be a statistician for ESPN because that's pretty good stuff, man.
So it's the William and Mary Bowl. Okay.
There we go. Look, Nick Sirianni's coaching for his job. If he gets trounced by Tampa Bay, best case scenario, he's on the hot seat next year, and he could likely be fired. But like, let's just be. You don't go 10-1 and then finish with 11 wins. Like you can't do that with this team. I think Philadelphia finds a way to get it done. Tampa Bay, for as great as Baker has been and as wrong as I've been about Tampa Bay, when they play teams with a winning record, they're significantly worse. They didn't look good against a really bad Carolina team. Give me Philadelphia to win. I don't feel good about this because I could totally see Philly just laying an egg and falling down 24-0 at halftime like they did against the pathetic Giants. For some reason, Philly has to show some fight. Otherwise, this whole team, this whole regime we've seen for Philly is going to be completely done. Not just the head coach, but everybody's going to be completely done. So give me Philly. But I feel sick saying that because they've shown me nothing, absolutely nothing the past 5 weeks.
Brett?
Yeah, I'll take the Buccaneers to cover, but I think Philly pulls out a close one. I don't think either team looks particularly great, but I think the Sirianni's going to have this team ready, and he better because it almost feels like he's I don't think he's coaching for his job. I think if you lose this one, he goes onto the hot seat next year. I think Nick Desai's the one that ends up getting canned. But, yeah, I think the Eagles do get it done, but I don't think either team looks great in this one.
I'm taking Baker and the Bucks. I just think what's going on in Philly, it's something within that locker room. And I think they're going to go into this game putting way too much pressure on themselves to play perfect, to kind of correct all their issues. And I think they're going to continue to struggle. With Baker Mayfield, I think the longer you let him hang around or you give him a lead, he's just going to keep upping his intensity and his energy, and that Bucks team is going to play really well around him. I just have a weird feeling the Bucks get this done. And we're going into an offseason with a lot of questions in Philly about what to do. So I'll take the Bucks here. And John put, if the Eagles lose, does A.J. Brown want out this offseason?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I think Kelsey retires. I think A.J. Brown, I think a lot of these players want to be out. You have the whole head coaching staff changes. It's going to be a mess. Especially if they lose bad, it's going to be a disaster of an offseason for Philly.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, that's all we had. I saw we actually went a little bit over the 2-hour mark. So he's going to have to do a little bit of trimming on this one, but it's all right.
Sorry, Key.
Yeah, it happens. But before we get out of here, you guys have anything you want to add?
Man, just enjoy the football. We're running out of weeks, and super wild card weekend, whatever they call it. Watch all three days because before you know it, it's going to be February, and we're going to be sad and depressed without football.
And make sure to check out Ad One, which will premiere shortly after this episode.
Yep, and congratulations, Michigan. You got it done, and Jim Harbaugh is probably going to be in the NFL next year.
Yeah, so for real. Congrats to UM. That was an awesome season.
Yeah. They just had too much physicality for Washington. But make sure you guys tune in next week at 7 o'clock. We're here every Tuesday. It's the Big Three. If you need to watch us again, you can watch us on the Roku channel, Northeast Streaming Sports Productions. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a replay of this episode, so make sure you tune in there as well. So for myself, Jake, and Garda 3, this is Big Three. We're out. See you later. Good night.